Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill, and I'm an alcoholic, and it's good to be here. I want to thank Steve for asking me to speak, and I'd like to thank everybody who is here. While I was going on it was a really nice day here in Florida. I went on a bike ride earlier, and I was just thinking of how many people have impacted my life over the years. Just so many people, all in AA, mostly that if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here today. And there's a thing. I kind of got it from my sponsor, Joe, who you all heard speak a while back. The thought of when you go to speaker meetings, people are, well, in any meeting, when people are sharing, they're sharing their soul with you a lot of times. And I really try to make more of an effort to listen and to pay attention and see what they're saying, you know, because things that I've heard in meetings have, saved my life. I mean, the last year and a half, well, it's not even a year and a half yet, but I lost my father last year, and I'm still going through the whole grief process. And I see my dad just standing in the living room one day, and he didn't even know where he was at. It turned out he had some type of terminal brain cancer. And I don't start crying now, but I mean, this man, I can't tell you how many times he's picked me up from treatment centers and drunk all over the place and tried to get me into different rehabs and lawyers and, just trying to help me when I was going through my drinking. And you know he was there, always to help me. And he I just there wasn't anything I could do, but thanks to, I've been attending AA regularly since 1985. So I've seen so many people go through this with dignity, with great whatever, go through it easy, go through it hard, whatever. But I knew that I could do it because I had seen other people do it. You know what I mean? And without all those people over all those years and watching what they went through, and thinking to yourself when you hear their story, you're like, man, I don't know if I can stay sober if that happens. But you see them do it. I remember, another example I was thinking, because I listened to him recently, was, Sandy Beach was down here. And when I first moved down here, I got to tell this because I always like telling this because people look shocked, especially down here. I didn't like Sandy Beach. You know what I mean? He was just a little too happy for me. And then I was talking to my sponsor, and he's like, well, I really like him. We spoke somewhere. He's really, a good speaker. And I thought, well, the trouble must not be in my set. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, if my sponsor likes him and I don't like him, I might want to take a look at that. And then when I started having more of an open mind and listening, I thought, well, maybe when I'm 40 years sober, I'll see a lot more positive things in situations. I was only like 14 years sober at the time, but, luckily I would get to see that guy in person a lot down here in Tampa. And, he's just one of the best speakers he just has a way of putting things in words and analogies. My sponsor, Joe, is like that a lot too. They could just things, they have a way of putting it into words that it just makes sense to me that I would never look at it that way. But, I, what I was getting to the point with that story is when his daughter was murdered, and he was like, I knew I had to forgive him immediately. And it was because he had seen a woman, her son had been murdered, and she was like, I need to forgive him. I don't want to have that on my soul. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And you're just like, wow, how could somebody do that? And it's like, you're doing it to free yourself, for your, I was just thinking there's a book I love, The Spirituality of Imperfection. I highly recommend it if you've never read it. But it was talking about the part, and I remember my sponsor, I remember when I was a few years sober, him pointing this out like word by word in the big book. It was like talking about resentment is the number one offender. From its stem, all forms of spiritual disease. And resentment is something I never wanted to give up. It was one of my hobbies. I believe you get a resentment, you got to nurture it and take care of it, and fan the flames, kind of thing. I mean, that's the way I came in. And if you look at my first book, I have that underlined, highlighted. I'm like, I gotta get this, the grouch and the brainstorm. I mean, all that kind of stuff was so hard for me, but I'm kind of bouncing around. But I'm just so grateful that I'm still here, because anybody who's been here a long time knows how many people we see that save our lives that don't stay. People that absolutely save my life, and they're like, whatever you do, don't stop going. Then you watch them stop coming. And then, the people where I got sober in Cincinnati, they were really big on institution meetings. So we were always going to detox and work release and, treatment centers. And then you go and the person that 12 stepped you is in the detox. And you're like, how can they be? I just didn't understand it, you know. And I remember the first time I saw some people with time that had helped me a lot, you know, that I had like up on the pedestal. I was like, oh my God, if he drank at 5 years, why should I might as well drink today? You know what I mean? There's no way I'm going to make it, you know, and forgetting that it's a one day at a time thing. But I I guess I need to start some kind of thing. Yeah, I'm so grateful I'm still here. I'm so grateful to people. I see Shelly. I know Jason's out there somewhere. I saw Rich. I don't even know how many people, but there's just been so many people in Ohio and in Florida and Massachusetts. You know, and these people they're in your life. And you know, a lot of times some of the people that have helped me the most, I don't want in my life. You know, I meet them, I'm like, I don't like this guy. I don't like his attitude, whatever. And, you know, they end up, you know, helping me because God's like, no, you need this person in your life, whatever kind of thing. And I don't know, I'm just thinking of all these people and so many people that you get to see them get sober, you see the lights come on, you see them get happy, and then you see them walk away from the table, you know, from the banquet table. And, you know, a lot of them die and or they just never make it back. And that's the one that scares me the most is that sometimes after you drink, you never get the desire to stay sober again, you know? So, I'm very grateful that you know, I'm still here, I'm still going, um, and that I have people, you know, I still have people in my life. Looking at Shell and thinking of Jason, I'm thinking of a guy we used to know, Danny, who went to the big meeting in the sky a long time ago. He always said, you get your personality from new people. Like if you don't have any new people in your life, you're not going to have any personality, you know? And I believe that's true. I think some of the funniest things that happen in my life are usually people I know that are new and the stuff they're talking about. I remember I met this guy go, well, where do you live? When I was in Kentucky, and he goes, well, I live in Nissan. I'm like, Nissan, Kentucky? I'm like, oh, you live in your car? He's like, you got it, boss. He's like, I live in my Nissan, you know? And, you know, just things like that. But I started drinking. I grew up in a little town outside of Cincinnati called Loveland, Ohio. I see a lot of people here are the age that they're familiar with the Andy Griffith Show. And that's what it was like. It was a great place to grow up. I mean, Shelley's been there. If you look across the street, I mean, it looks like a postcard. There's like 5 acres. There's a lake. There's horses over there grazing. You know, the person they have a friend. I hated it. All I would do is hitchhike away from that place and try to find, you know, an apartment complex or, you know, some place where there was limited adult supervision and, you know, drinking. My first drink was when I was 14. Um, and my first blackout was when I was 14 years old. But I didn't know it was a blackout. So I went to AA when I was probably 18 years old, when I started hearing speakers, you know. And but my first blackout, I just remember I was drinking with my friend and we were going to go to his parents' house. I like hanging out with them because his parents were alcoholics and he would put them to bed. And I just thought that was amazing. We'd come in, they'd be drunk, and he'd be like, Mom, you're drunk, go to bed. Dad, you're drunk. And they would go to bed. That was the part I couldn't believe. They would listen to him. He'd kind of push them into their rooms. And then we'd drink their liquor, you know, because they would have half gallons of gin and stuff like that. And I thought this is great. We could steal their cigarettes and drink their gin. And but what had happened is last thing I remember, it was like dusk and it was fall. And I wake up and it's in the morning and I'm like, where's my friend? You know, so I go upstairs and my mom looks really angry. And I don't know, she's been dealing with a drunk all night. But she's like, what were you on last night? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she starts telling me all the bizarro things I'm doing. And the highlight of the night was pretty much any night of me drinking. It was me using a bathroom where there's not a bathroom, you know. And apparently I tried to use the bathroom in the living room in front of the family. And, you know, she told me that. And I remember being like, man, she's just making this up to scare me, you know. And, you know, my brother, I remember him laughing and he's like, yeah, you did, you know, you tried to pee behind the speaker or whatever. And I was embarrassed by it, but you know, it didn't stop me. I don't know. I could never connect the dots. You know what I mean? I would always think it was something else. It wasn't drinking. It was that, you know, whatever. I should have left the house earlier, something like that. And so then soon after that, I started hitchhiking. And that was Uber back then. You just stuck your thumb out. And, you know, I watch all the serial killer shows now. You know, I was 14 years old. I look at 14-year-olds now and I'm like, what was wrong with me? I didn't think anything of it. You know, and I had some scary calls with people doing, you know, weird stuff and propositioning me and stuff. And I would just be like, you know, hitchhiking is like you're praying someone will pick you up. Then once you get in the car, you're praying you get out of the car alive, you know. And but it never stopped me. And a lot of times you just walk, and it'd be cold or hot or whatever. But I just think, man, this is my mom's fault for us not living on the bus line, or like when we live closer to where I want to party or whatever. And the other one is always, well, once I get my license, once I get my license, everything's going to be good. And long and short of it, I got my license. I got a DUI almost instantly. And I was a terrible driver. I would wreck my car almost every night. And I had a 65 Mustang. And, it was, I don't know, it was just crazy. But my poor dad, he would always be like, what happened to your car? I was like, what do you mean? And he'd show me some big dent in it, and I wouldn't even know where it came from or whatever. And I'd make up some line. He would always, you know, be like, telephone poles are on the other side of the road. That's not even possible. Or what? I mean, he would always be right. I would just get so mad. Like the best one though was one day he was like, what were you doing driving in a cornfield? I'm like, I ain't been in no cornfield. He gets a mechanic creeper out, gets under the car, pulls his big corn stalk out of the drive shaft. And I mean, I would have near death experiences all the time. I was always almost killing myself. People wouldn't ride with me. They'd be like, they'd get out of the car and hitchhike and stuff. But I just thought I was stupid. I never thought I was an alcoholic. I just thought, I was a moron. I mean, I would have these near death things all the time. My friends would be like, man, I don't know. Like it, I don't know. It was just crazy. But I remember he was concerned, but not that concerned. But anyway, to keep moving. So at 17, I get my first DUI. I'm pulling. I always tell this because the way my brain works. I'm pulling out of an Arby's when I get this DUI. Anyway, I'm drinking Colt 45. Some old people remember I'm eating plaster dills, which are muscle relaxers. I'm high. Anyway, I cut off a state trooper. He gets me, right away. And in my mind, immediately, I'm just like, I can't believe this because I had long hair at the time and had a bandana on, an army coat. I'm like, he's pulling me over because I look like I get high. You know what I mean? That's all I'm thinking. There's probably someone getting robbed right now or some kind of crime going down. This guy's hassling me, a kid just trying to get home. And anyway, we had a big talk about why he was pulling me over, and I didn't understand. But I was basically like, why are you hassling me? And he had me get out of the car. I flunked the DUI thing because, I did a little rubber man walk for him. It wasn't a very long field sobriety test. He handcuffed me and I went in, got the DUI and lost my license for like 6 months. And I got to find out how much people liked my company. Most people who drank with me would only drink with me once. And then they wouldn't. I know alcoholics can relate to this. It's like they drink with you one time and they're so horrified. If they're just normal drinkers, they will not go anywhere near you. So that's what was happening. So I would call people and beg for them to come pick me up, and they would just be like, "No way," and it's just sad. But I was hitchhiking again and everything, and I just never thought that I was an alcoholic. I mean, I never thought it was a drinking. I just thought someday I would learn to drink like a normal person. You know what I mean, and not be a weirdo or whatever. And I started getting a lot of trouble with my mom, because I would make so much noise getting in the house and stuff. So she would, or I'd get caught like stealing and different things. I'd steal from her. I remember her catching me stealing this money. She had a strong box with Susan B. Anthony silver dollars in it. Like the first time I did it was like Mission Impossible. You couldn't tell I did it or anything, but you need to drink quicker. It's taking too long. So I get a hammer and chisel, the boxes. And I remember when she showed me, I thought somebody else did it. That's the other weird thing when you're an alcoholic. There's this delusion. I'm like, who broke into the box? It was me. But I mean, I'm looking, I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. That's crazy. Like, that looks like some lunatic did it, and it was me. And I just remember thinking someone had framed me or whatever. And I remember her crying, saying, I can't believe my own son would steal from me like this. And I was like, I didn't steal all that money. And alcoholics are bad at math too. So I stole like $2, maybe 100 times. So when she kept telling me I stole $200, I was like, I never took 200. I mean, if I took $200, I would have left the country. This when I was 14 or whatever. And I couldn't figure out, like, you steal $2 100 times, it'd be $200. So I thought I'd been framed. But what I would do though is when that kind of stuff would happen, my brain is like, well, I'll kill myself. That's what I go to right away. I'll kill myself, and she'll be sorry that she made me, feel bad or whatever. but I'm also being an alcoholic. I'm going to drink before I kill myself. And what alcohol does for me is when I drink, I don't want to kill myself. When I start getting that buzz, I'm going to move to California. I'm going to join the Air Force or the Marine Corps, whatever it is. And, so I've traveled all over the world and been in all kinds of neat jobs and stuff in my underwear, just be sitting there drunk in my underwear calling, a lot of you remember this ITT Technical Institute. I'd call them. Apparently I called them because they showed up in my house. I don't remember calling them, but it'd be like computers or electronics or whatever. And I'd feel so good before I pass out, about my new life. And I'd picture people salute me and stuff when I was in the military and all this kind of things, but I'd never followed up with any kind of action. So, it kept progressing. I, uh, I always have to tell my sponsor, because man, if I don't tell it, I would do things. I didn't have many friends. Like I said, I would attack my friends. I had one guy's girlfriend at my house, and in those days, Friday the 13th was a big movie and stuff. There's movies, there's like horror movies. Anyway, I grew up on a farm. My dad had a chainsaw back there, so I thought it'd be funny to chase these people around the house drunk with the chainsaw, and I did. While I was running, and they never came back. They never hung out with me. And I'm like, they locked themselves in the garage. I'm like, I'm just joking. Come on, they're like, you're gonna kill us, and I'm like, what? It's just a joke. But stuff like that. That guy reminded me on Facebook years later. He asked me, and I said, no, just you. He asked me if I had chased anybody else with a chainsaw, but it's just him. And I remember my dad the next day, he kept being like, smells like someone was running a chainsaw in the house. Do you know anything about that? I was like, no, Dad. I mean, if they knew anything weird, it was me, because my brother was just normal and happy. And, my sister was pretty normal. I was, drunk. So, oh, that first DUI I didn't mention the whole thing. I was coming out of Arby's, so you know what I would blame it on is Arby's. If I wouldn't have stopped at Arby's, I wouldn't have got the DUI. So I didn't eat at Arby's for like 15 years after that. But I got another DUI later, believe it or not. And the other two things, real quick. I almost killed my best friend because he told me I was an alcoholic. And luckily he woke my mother up. He was screaming so loud. I was beating his head in the pavement, and I remember her being like, "What are you doing? What are you doing to Jeff?" And she said it was so creepy. She said I stood up and I was acting like I was sober. And I said, "Mom, Jeff's really drunk, and I don't want him to drive. That's why I'm detaining him or whatever." And she's like, "Well, just leave him alone." And he's going, "Mrs. Weber called, call 911 or whatever." Actually 911 didn't even exist yet. He's like, "Call the police. He's crazy. Like, you need to call the police." And I'm going, "Don't listen to him. He's drunk." And she said I finally got her to go to bed, and then he was trying to escape, and then I got him again, was beating him, and she came out, and luckily he escaped. But that was like my last friend. And I'm beating him because he told me I was an alcoholic, and that's why nobody wanted to be around me. Because I can't handle my liquor and the way I behave, and I guess I was a little too close to home. But um, that's, I mean, there were a couple other instances like that. But I don't know. I never got it. I never once thought, I just thought I was crazy. I really did. I thought I was crazy, and it was all going to end, with something really violent. But I mean, I didn't think it was my fault though either. Like, I would blame society, all this kind of goofy stuff. If my parents, like, I think stuff like, if my mom would have got me involved in sports when I was a kid, I wouldn't be like this. And I try to, buy, say all that stuff when I was sober and stuff. But so what ended up happening was I turned 18, which is a real problem if you're an alcoholic, especially in Ohio. So I turned 18, I got another DUI, and now mommy wasn't going to court. I was, and I knew it wasn't a good deal. And I remember my dad being like, before I got the DUI, he's like, look, they're doing mandatory sentencing now. You have to go to jail. Like, if you get a DUI. And I'm like, man, I won't get a DUI. And, he tried to help me. He's like, look, call me, I'll get you a cab. I won't yell at you. I just don't want to see you get a DUI. And I'm like, I love you, Dad. Because my mom's smart. She lives with me. You know what I mean? She's like, there's no reason for him to drive. Like, he's insane. He can't operate a door key. Because she would always bust me when I was trying to get in the house. I'd make so much noise. She finally opened the door. She's like, you're drunk, aren't you? And I get so mad. But, it was true. I couldn't figure out how to unlock a door usually. So, or she'd find me in the yard taking a nap. That was something I did a lot. So, anyway, I, got that DWI, and my best friend was in a carry. It was called the Carry Unit of Cincinnati. So it was one of these 28-day, and it's like this is the first we had ever heard of these things. And he'd call me from the place, from the payphone. I'd just make fun of him, because I just was like, I'm not an alcoholic or drug problem or whatever. And it's so funny. I knew nothing about either, but I knew I did not want to be an alcoholic. I was okay with saying I was coming on a drug addict, but an alcoholic, that just sounded terrible. So I went into that place with the only reason was to get out of going to jail, because the place at the time was called the Workhouse. That doesn't sound good for a lazy kid like me. And it's like built during the Civil War and stuff. And I heard these guys say, "Man, you don't want to go to the Workhouse." So I was like, "All right, I'll go to this place." And he said the food was good and there were girls in there. So I went there, and it was just really weird. I mean, it was 1984. I was 18. They had rubber psych ward furniture. Have anybody seen that with the round edges and it's like rubber. And everybody had armbands on. And so it was like a hospital, but there were all these kids from like 14 to 18 in there. The majority of them, I'd say, were 17, 16, 17. But the first thing that freaked me out was everybody coming up being like, "I'm an alcoholic." And I'd be like, "Whoa," like, they're shaking hands. I'm like, I don't want to catch that. Like, don't touch me or whatever. Like, you should keep that. I remember just thinking you should keep that to yourself. You shouldn't tell people that kind of stuff. I felt like, I don't know. I didn't know anything about it. But the first night in there, they had, the first thing I remember is, like I said, I was kind of weird, whatever. I thought I was crazy because I would always get in trouble with any kind of situations where people, anything with like feelings or sense. I mean, I would really get called out for my sarcasm and stuff like that. And the guy, like, I didn't have any feelings for anybody. You know what I mean? I would just hear how selfish I was. And I remember the guy that was a volunteer told me he was an alcoholic, and he said he had to drink. He'd pour beer in the sink and lap it up like a dog, because if he drank out of the bottle, he'd chip his teeth, like from shaking. And I remember having empathy for him. I didn't know what that was, but I remember just feeling really sorry for him not being able to drink. Now I know, because I'm an alcoholic. You know what I mean? But at that time, I just thought, that poor old guy. I didn't realize, that's why I was feeling empathy for him or whatever. But and the first night they were like, you have to go to AA tonight. I was like, I'm not going to AA. And they said, if you don't go, they're going to kick you out. And the whole reason I'm there is for court. I want to get a good report card, because I had just seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, Jack, I'm going to go in here, pretend I'm an alcoholic, get good grades, and I can show this to the judge and get out of going to jail. And then I can get back to drinking. And I thought, think how good this is going to be. 28 days, cleaning my body up. And when I get out, I can just destroy it. So the first speaker I ever heard was a guy named Billy, who was sober 30 years. That horrified me. I mean, just the thought of being in AA for 30 years, that did not sound good to me. That just sounded like, God, poor guy, like it sounded like being in a dungeon or something. But he, he spoke and he talked about things that I knew about, and about drinking. Oh, and blackouts. He mentioned blackouts. That's where I first heard about blackouts, was in that hospital, the different speakers that came in. A lot of speakers came in, and actually some kids I went to high school with came in, and they were in AA. They had just vanished from the high school. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing here? They're like, oh, we're in AA. And that kind of blew my mind. But I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but if you're an alcoholic, you don't give up alcohol that easy. I mean, and the biggest thing, I thought, I'm 18. Like, come on. Everyone knows, and not that I know of anything at this time, but I'm like, everyone knows you have to be at least 65 years old to be an alcoholic. There's no way you can possibly be an alcoholic at 18. Now, I can tell you, I was drinking Listerine at 15. And when I offered to share it with somebody, they looked at me like, what is wrong with you? And I looked at them like, what is wrong with you? And they spit it out. I drank it. But yeah, I don't know. I went to the meetings. I went to the groups. I like the speakers. When you're there long enough, they take you to outside meetings. I liked it all. I mean, I liked the speakers. But I thought, if someday I become an alcoholic, I'll go to AA. And then the thing that irritated me the most about AA is they would say back then, at least in Cincinnati, they would say things like, it's when you get hit by a train, it's not the caboose that kills you, it's the engine. So you don't take the first drink, you can't get drunk. They'd say things like that. I just thought that was also dumb. And they would say it always gets worse. It's a progressive illness, and they'd say all that stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, 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 maybe for you, but not me. I'm young and I'm smart, and that's not going to happen to me. So anyway, I get out. I start drinking the first week I'm out. I decided that I'm not an alcoholic, but I can't drink because I try to kill my friends when I drink. And I thought I'd just smoke pot. Well, I smoke pot. I get really thirsty. I start drinking. It didn't take long. And I think we went to court, and my attorney said something like, "Isn't it commendable? Young William is, going to AA and whatever." Anyway, long and short of it, I couldn't stop drinking. I thought I'm safe. I ended up robbing one of the guys I met in treatment. Now I'm looking at robbery. I'm back at the same treatment center, all the same people from AA. They're like, "Oh, weren't you just here?" And you're like, "Oh God," how that whole scene is. But anyway, I got a sponsor because I was screwed. You know what I mean? It looked like I was going to prison. I got an attorney. I was still going to prison. And all I was thinking is, I need to split. I need to just hitchhike to Colorado and, Grizzly Adams style, just learn to make a TP and eat squirrels or something. But I mean, I was like, I'm not going to Ohio State Penitentiary. I don't think I've got the people skills for it. I had trouble buying cigarettes when I was sober. I'd mumble and stuff. So I went to the treatment center. I did what they said. I read the big book. I got a sponsor. That's where I met Joe. He was speaking at this young people's group called Friday Night Live, and I heard him speak. And I mean, I just right away I knew that was my sponsor. And I've had the same sponsor now for almost 40 years, which is crazy. But I mean, I just heard the guy speak that night. And I thought, that guy's crazy like I'm crazy. I need to talk to him. And right away it was wild because I I had heard he was good. Anyway, I thought I needed like a drill sergeant. I told him, I was like, "Look, man, I need somebody to kick my butt, make me do all this stuff." You know what I mean? And he was like, "I'm not going to do any of that." He said, "I can show you what my sponsor showed me." He said, "It's up to you if you want to do it," which I was really surprised by. And, he was just like, "I go to these meetings," and he's like, "You get there, I'll get you home." And gave me his number, and I wouldn't really call him much, but the first time I think I called him, I was in treatment, and he was like, "Man, like when I was in the place, he didn't even really want to talk to me when I was in the hospital." He goes, "I'll talk." He goes, "I'll see you at a meeting outside." It was like he wanted to see if I was really going to do this. It was crazy, but I mean, he saved my life. Anyway, I and he was like no joke about it. He's very serious. I thought he was very dramatic. He was always like, "Oh, alcoholism kills people. Look around this room. So many people are going to die." And I'm like, "God, you act like everything is this alcoholism." I was like, "I just got a bullcrap court case. I just need a good lawyer and some money, a girlfriend. I'll be fine." But yeah, I did everything they said, and I stayed sober. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I remember having 30 or 90 days, and I didn't even believe it. And 6 months, I didn't believe it. But I still had this court thing going on, and I'm like, this AA is not working. It was looking like I'm going to go to prison still. I'm like, I don't think this is fair, God, and I kept thinking, I need to split. And it got right up to the day before my court date. And I called Joe, and I was my sponsor, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, "Well, the kind of AA answers you just love." He's like, "Well," they had offered me a plea bargain. He's like, "You're just going to have to pray about it and like listen to your gut." And I'm like, "My gut?" I'm like throwing up blood. They're like, "What are you talking about, my gut?" And then the one that really got me is he's like, "You're just going to have to try to help another alcoholic," because I kept hinting like I thought all these people from my club were going to like go to court with me and convince the judge. This is what he told me when I told him all that, or was hinting at. He goes, "Don't worry, Bill. They got a lot of AA in prison." He said, "When you get to prison, you'll be able to go to AA." And I thought, this guy sucks. Like, I am getting a new sponsor, but he's still my sponsor today. And anyway, that day I talked to him. And when he said that, I was so mad, but I hung up the phone. And like not even 5 minutes later, a guy, my roommate, called me from the treatment center. I just got out, and he was drunk. And he was like at a phone booth. And you could hear him. And he kept saying he couldn't take anymore. And I'm trying to help him like a parrot. I'm telling him stuff that I've heard. And it was weird. I hung up the phone. I was totally calm. And I didn't know then, but I know now I had a spiritual awakening. because I thought to myself, and I don't think this way, I thought I would rather be sober going to prison than be him drunk in that phone booth. And I thought, if I go face the music, this will be over. If I split and skip court, I'm just starting a whole nother mess. You know what I mean? That's what I always do. And the other thing, I knew I was kind of lazy. I was no guy that was going to be some man on the run fugitive. I knew they'd find me in my mom's backyard sleeping in a Scooby Doo tent eating Pop Tarts or something. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to be like, hiding out in the mountains or anything. So I went to court and went to jail, but didn't go to prison. My lawyer said he couldn't believe it. Got out of jail, and I went to A in jail. Guys from Dayton, Ohio, AA, they came in, brought meetings in, and while I was in there, it was weird. It was like I was tuned in, and all I heard when I was in there, and I still haven't worked any steps or anything, was all the guys I met. They'd be like, "How old are you, kid?" And I'd be like, 19. And they're like, "Yeah, when I was your age, I was in this institution." And all I could see is like, it just became clear, like, this is going to be your life. If you don't get sober, you're just going to be in and out of jail forever. You know what I mean? I could just see it. Like most of the guys I talked, they were in for dumb stuff, but you could tell it was drinking and drugs, mostly. So I got out, and I'd like to say I stayed sober right away, but I messed around a little more. But I started calling the sponsor, mainly because I couldn't sleep. I was blessed with insomnia, and he worked third shift. I couldn't sleep. So I'd call him at like 2 a.m. This is long before caller ID. He'd answer the phone. He'd go, "Yeah, Bill, what do you want?" I'd be like, "How do you know it's me?" He'd go, "Other people got jobs." And I'd laugh, and I'd be like, "Screw you," I'd think. And all he would do is talk about AA. He'd be like, "Are you reading the big book?" And I'd be like, "Dude, that book was written in like 1930 something, man. Don't they have a newer book?" And he'd be like, "Have you read the doctor's opinion?" I don't know. I just started doing it. I just started doing everything they said, because that was kind of his story. He said he did everything his sponsor said to prove it wouldn't work. So that's what I started doing. And I've been sober ever since. When I started trying to do the things that I thought were stupid and they weren't going to work to prove that AA wouldn't work, I've been sober. And the other big thing, like I said, they were really big in the institutions. So, I remember the first time he's like, "What do you do Monday night, man?" And there was this big young people's meeting, a lot of girls and, young people and everything. And that's where I want to go. He's like, "No, we go to the state mental institution. You want to come?" And I'm like, "Why in the hell would you go to the state mental institution?" He's like, "It'll keep you sober." And we go down there, and it was just like One Flew to the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, people have been in there forever, 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? You bring your cigarettes in, they're gone. They ask you for cigarettes. You give them one cigarette. They're on so much Thorazine, they smoke it in one. They smoke the whole cigarette. They cough for like 5 minutes. They ask for another cigarette, and I'm just like, I don't understand how this is helping us. And they're like, "This is alcoholism." They're like, and then I seen people that I used to make fun of the speakers and meetings with in there. You know what I mean? They used to be the people I was hanging out with. So we go there. Then he got me to go to speak. I mean, I'm the kind of kid, or was the type of kid, if I had to do a book report or something, I had to speak in front of the class, I just got an F because I couldn't do it. I had too much, self-centered anxiety or whatever, and they got me speaking all over the place. And I don't care how bad you did, afterwards they're all patting you, like, "Great job. You did a great job," no matter what you say. I wouldn't even know. I'd just be up there sweating, having a panic attack. I wouldn't know what was going on, but they're like, "Great job. They kept you sober," They'd take you around. So he wanted me to go to prison. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought it was some kind of trick, like he was going to get, he was taking me to, go up there for real or something. But he goes, "Well, we go to this meeting." He goes, "We'll meet at my house at 3. And then we're going to get some coffee at White Castle's. And we're going to drive 2 hours up to London, Ohio. Then we're going to have dinner. Then we're going to go to the meeting." And I remember just thinking in my head, bottom line, I'm supposed to meet him at 3. We're going to get back home at like 10. I'm like, "You want to do 7 hours at AA in one day?" I'm just thinking, this is fanatic stuff. You know what I mean? But that stuff saved my life. You know what I mean? I deal with my sponsor. It was once a month, but it was like 7 hours, man. And that's how long it would usually take me to ask a question, about 7 hours. You know what I mean? I'd be thinking about it on the way up, but I'd be too scared to ask whatever I didn't understand or whatever. And then by the time we pulled up to his driveway, like, blurted out real quick this question. It's been on my mind, the whole time, but I'm feeling too stupid to ask it or whatever. And going up there, I remember the first time this guy in there gave me a hug about broke all my ribs. And and they loved him over there. He was just off the chain. We'd be up there and be like, "Doesn't this guy look like Magic Johnson?" I'm like, "Shut up." You know what I mean? You're gonna get us killed up here. But they loved him. And we'd go to that meeting, and then was the steps. And I mean, I never thought I would do the steps. I mean, I never thought. I remember reading this. Remember the first time you read the steps? I mean, I made a list of what I wasn't going to do. I'm definitely not doing 4, 8, and 9. Forget that. All in turn, what's your life going to be like if you turn over to God? It's going to be terrible. You're never going to have any fun or have any money. I thought we're just going to be at the airport banging tamarines and stuff. And nobody was telling me to do that, but that's what my mind would think, when I'd read that stuff. So anyway, he took me through, and I swear he made it so freaking easy. It just seemed too easy. Like I would work a step and then I'd think, I got to get another sponsor. That was too easy. But I'm glad he really got me reading the book. I read the book, I'd say cover to cover for the first 2 years every night because I couldn't sleep. So I just read. I remember the book hit me in the face all the time. I couldn't sleep, but I try to read the book. And I knew that because, at first I'm like, at least for me, I was going to do that 4 step, but I was going to leave out anything, embarrassing or whatever, anything too whatever. And the other thing I love about speaker meetings, I would hear people talking about the things I was ashamed of from the podium. And I think that guy didn't just say that, did he? Did he just really say that? And I think I was so paranoid. I thought my mother was calling AA and said, say you wet the bed so he'll think he's an alcoholic or whatever. I'm thinking, that guy's married with children. He can't, there's no way he just said that. I don't want to pull people aside like, dude, there's certain things you shouldn't, tell people and keep stuff to yourself. But I knew, and from reading the book, I knew, that if I did the inventory and I hung on to some of the worst items in stock, that, it says invariably they got drunk. So it was crazy. I was sober, I think around 9 months, and I could tell I was getting ready to drink. I just had that feeling. Like I might work day labor a few days. I'd be feeling good about being an A. People are happy to see me. I'd see myself in the mirror and be like kind of smiling a little bit. And then I'd be like, what are you smiling about? If those people in A knew what kind of low life you really are, they would never even hang out with you. But then I did that inventory and he told me, he said, just write down the things that really bother you because I don't need no big novel. He said, just write down the things that really bother you. And when I finally was ready to do it, it only took me like a day or two. I knew what those things were. I thought about them every day. The things that needed to be on there every day, I thought about them. And we met at Oak Street's a club in Cincinnati, and it looks like the Adams family house. It's like a castle. Anyway, we met, and I didn't think it was a very secure location. I mean, there was another meeting too close by. You know what I mean? I thought some people might be eavesdropping on my stuff, but we did it, and it didn't go anything the way I thought. He laughed at some inappropriate times, I felt. But anyway, we did it, and when it was done, he was like, he said, "You're just an alcoholic." You know what I mean? And he said, "Those are all the things that are keeping you drunk." And a couple other things he stopped. And I mean, he just blew my mind with things. I mean, it was the beginning of learning. And Sandy talks about the old ideas you have that you don't even know you have, that you've made up, that are ruling your whole life. And it'd be like, who said that? He'd be like, who says that's, you know what I mean? And I'd never questioned any of my crazy old ideas. I just to myself, you know what I mean? They were facts to me. And he pointed some things out. And the hardest thing for me was writing things I liked about myself. He wanted me to write down 3 things I thought were positive about myself. I had a hell of a time doing that. But, and then we left. We went to Dick's Liquors in Kentucky and bought some cigarettes. You get your cartons of cigarettes there because they were cheaper. And then we went to this meeting called Spiritual Fallout. And I mean, I was just running around telling everybody I did my 4-step. I just couldn't believe it because I really didn't think I'd do it. I thought and actually I tried to chicken out when I was up there. I was sitting on it, I had it under, and this woman that I don't think she's sober now, but she's like, "What's the matter, Bill? You look totally crazy." I said, "I'm supposed to do my inventory tonight for the 5th step." I said, "But I don't think he isn't here. I think it's a sign from God. I should leave." And she's like, "No, you should do it. It's going to help you." And she kept me there a few minutes, and he showed up. I would have booked if she wouldn't have come up there talking to me. But so my life, and after I did that, for me, that's where my life really took off. I mean, I felt like I was a member of AA. I felt like I was part, this society or whatever. And I just started getting active, man. I started speaking a lot. I started going in. We were so lucky there. If you just showed up at the club an hour and a half early, you would be going somewhere before the meeting. So before the meeting, you'd go to a detox or a psych ward or something. Pretty much every night, people were looking for people. You didn't even have to have the commitment. You just show up and you could go. And so we did that. And, I talked to Joe every night, man. He'd blow the cool. I talked to him every night. I would be like, just blow him up every night, and like, just, I mean, one day of being sober, I'd have about 20 hours of complaints. And this guy, I said, I don't understand step three or whatever. I'd be getting in fights with people and stuff and arguments and all kinds of stuff. And, um, you know, it, I heard a guy speak last night. He was so good. He was reminding me, for anybody there that got sober in the 80s, you remember, I mean, he was just reminding me stuff. I mean, the smoke, the characters. And I mean, it was just wild. And that club was so close to downtown and all they called it Pill Hill, all the hospitals in Cincinnati. Every hospital had a treatment center and a psych ward in it pretty much. So they were all up there all the time. It was just wild. You had all the bikers up front. You had the old timers on the side. They're all driving Cadillacs and Lincolns. Then you got the different street people that are there and stuff. It just, because they'd open the place up at like 8 in the morning. It was open until midnight, and just, you could always go up to Oak Street. There'd be something going on. So, and we would go to speaker meetings like every day. I mean, pretty much 7 days a week. I hear different people and I'd be blown away. I mean, one night you hear a plumber, the next night you hear a lawyer, then you hear a priest. I remember the first time I heard a priest, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what's he doing here? And he's like, oh, he's an alcoholic. He's talking about being drunk, doing the mass or whatever, not remembering and stuff. And, we called her Twisted Sister. We had a nun. She did all the dances, dancing in her habit. She was great. But, so I'm sober and I just don't know what's going to happen. And I thought I'd never get a job because I had that robbery charge. And my sponsor was like, he said, look, if you just put AA first, everything else will take care of itself. And I just thought, easy for you to say, you're working for Ford, you're in the union. That's what I kept thinking. I was like, you're my sponsor. When are you going to get me in the union? Never happened. Anyway, I'm at an AA meeting. Some guy shows up with a little corner of a piece of notebook paper. He said, I hear you need a job. He said, you go to this address tomorrow and see Frank. And I went down there, and Frank was from the Bronx, the best boss for a lazy kid like me. And he said, Kev says you need a job. They give you a chance. So, I'm complaining about not having a job. I can't get any coffee, when we go out, or cigarettes. And now I got a job washing barrels. I wash these barrels that have orange juice concentrate in them, they made Tropicana orange juice. Anyway, but I'd see my sponsor every day. He'd be so excited, like, how's that job, man? You got a job, and I'd be like, it sucks, man. I make $3.35 an hour. And he goes, how much you make sitting around your mom's house all day? And I mean, I'd be like, he'd blow my mind. I think this guy's like a genius. You know what I mean? I'd be so mad, but I couldn't say anything, I'd see him later. He goes, how's that job, man? I go, man, I only make like $100 a week. He goes, well, hell, that sounds like $100 more you're making next week. And I'd get so mad, but at the same time, I think this guy's really smart, because I'd have all these jobs. I'd quit. I mean, I would have so many W-2s at the end of the year. It was so confusing, and it's funny. Tonight, I just happened to look at my 12 and 12, and I found my earnings for 1983. In 1983, I made $11.80. I worked at Perkins for approximately 4 hours that year. That's all of jobs, They ask me to do something, I just leave. If anything gets difficult, you just leave. But I mean, my parents are really impressed with AA. I've been out of the house for decades, been working. But that job, I mean, I worked there for 2 years, and that guy, I mean, he helped me so much, and it made me call my sponsor all the time because everybody there was an alcoholic except for the guy that got me the job. And they'd make fun of us, because we were sober, and they'd be like, man, Kev, don't bring any more of these guys down from AA. They never pitch in on the 12 packs, So they like yell at us, But I learned to show up to work, and I don't know, a couple other things I want to talk about. So, I worked through the rest of the steps with my sponsor, kept doing the institution stuff. I came to Florida in 1999. A friend of mine in AA called me, said, you want to move to Florida? I'm like, nope. And he's, well, I think I can get you this job. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go down there. Then my girl was like, well, he sent you a plane ticket. I'm like, well, I'm pretty dumb, but I'm not that dumb. Like, he's going to send me a ticket to work at a job I'm not qualified to do and I don't know how to do. I guess I'll go down there, And I came down here and I had a rough time at first, just adjusting. But it's been a really good thing, because I got the cool thing about Florida is there's so many old timers from all over the place. You pretty much it's like a buffet of AA, just different things. My pretty much favorite group, I'd say, are all the Boston people. The Boston people are kind of like Cincinnati. This is that old tough, sarcastic AA, the kind of love, like somebody's not at the meeting, like, where are you at? I was at the hockey game. They're like, well, you call hockey when you want to drink, stuff like that to be busting you up. But I mean, it's just been a great way to live, and the things that I've been kind of thinking about, like I was saying, that thing about sharing the soul. I'm just so grateful that I have these people in my life. I mean, I've seen so many people, that it's such an honor to get to watch someone that thinks they're just completely hopeless. Just the people I love the most are the ones that hate AA. I love the ones that hate AA and can't stand it. And then you see them get happy and start to participate and smile, you know what I mean? And be laughing at meetings. Cause that's how I'd be. I'd be in a meeting, I'd start laughing at a meeting and I'd stop immediately. Like I'd be horrified. Like, wait a minute, we're sober, remember? This is terrible. Like, why are you laughing? And I mean, I've just been really fortunate. I've had to be sober all this time, and to the people that have been in my life. I mean, and a lot of times new people have helped me so much. I mean, I didn't meditate till I was 20 years sober because I never asked anybody for help. Some guy who had like 6 months sober, like started helping me with meditation, and now I've been pretty much a daily meditator for damn near 20 years, and it's helped me so much. The other thing is as far as working with those, I see a lot of the guys that help me the most. Sometimes I don't even technically sponsor them. They're just guys I've talked to after meetings, and I think a lot of people get really caught up and beat themselves up because they don't have, well, I'm not, their sponsor. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's just I'm just so grateful for AA and to be sober. And Zoom, I mean, my God, Zoom was such a lifesaver during the pandemic. And even now, different times, I'll get to hear people that, I don't live close to, and I get to hear them speak and see them. Um, and I think I'm a big fan of speaker communities because I love, and Sandy would say, I love hearing just people's stories because I'm so wrong about people. And then you hear their story and you're like, oh, I never knew that. I never knew that. You know what I mean? And then if you take the time to listen, I especially love, I had this experience a lot where, say I don't care for someone and I'm like, I don't want to hear them speak. But God will keep putting them in my path. And then finally I'm like, all right, maybe if I listen. And then finally I listen, I go, okay, God, I see. I'm not listening. You know what I mean? And then I'll get the help that I need. So, um, I'm completely out of time, but I appreciate everyone listening. And if you're new, my main thing I would say is just, give yourself a break. All of our lives are sacred. Treat them as they are. You're very sick if you're new in AA, and these people here, all they want to do is help you. I thought they were all trying to scam me for something. I didn't know they were just trying to help me because it helps them to stay sober. So that's all. Thank you so much. Yay.
Gee, thanks, Bill. You did that other Bill Wilson guy proud, I'd say. What an adventure this sobriety is, and I'm grateful too. Stick around for a few. I've got a few announcements to make, and then we'll have you take us out with a prayer of your choice. In the meanwhile, Dan, would you read the promises for us, please?
Thank you, Karen. My name is Dan Cotter, and I am an alcoholic. These are the promises as written in the big book on page 83 and 84. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. So, next Tuesday night here, we will have Tricia R. from Jacksonville, Florida, and the following week, Jill W. from St. Augustine. Same time on Saturday night, we have a Serenity Improvement Group as well, and this week will be Pete B. from Los Angeles. The following week, the amazing Allie H. from Toronto, Canada. If you haven't heard Allie speak yet, do come and listen. He's quite something. Very, very spiritual guy. All righty. So, just a reminder to stick around after the meeting and discuss whatever you'd like. We're here for you. And Bill, would you take us out with a prayer, please? And I'll unmute everybody so they can participate. Oh, maybe I will and maybe I won't. There we go. Okay.
Our Father,
Our Father,
who art in heaven,
who art in
Hallowed be thy
hallowed be
name.
thy name.
Thy
thy
kingdom
kingdom
come.
come,
Thy will be done.
thy
Thy will be
Earth
done
as it is
on
in
earth
heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us
As
this
it
day
hath
our
Day
daily bread,
daily bread,
Our
and
daily
forgive us
bread.
our
forgive us
trespasses,
Trespasses
as we
as
forgive
we
those
forgive
who
those
trespass against
who
us.
trespass
And lead
against
us
and
us.
lead
not
us
into
not
lead us
into
not
temptation,
into
Not into
temptation,
deliver
deliver
us
us from
from
but
evil.
deliver us
evil.
from
For
evil.
thine
thine
is
is
the
the
kingdom
kingdom,
and the
Glory.
power
power,
And
and
the power
glory.
and
forever and
the
ever.
glory forever.
Amen.
Power and
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you, Bill.
Good
you.
stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Billy. That
you.
was a good
Bill.
one.
Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Karen, for
Bill.
your
Bill.
service. Awesome. Thank you for your share.
Thanks, Bill.
Loved your
Thank you,
humor and your
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Good job, Bill. Killer Joe.
Thank you, Bill.
Karen. Bill.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Karen, as well, for sharing tonight.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Karen.
Hey, hey, Billy.
Friends.
Hey, Cheryl.
Saturday evening.
Yes. God bless. Have a wonderful week.
God bless Bill. I got sober up in Connecticut. Just like that, all the nut houses and jails and all the first 30 years of speaker meetings. And exactly what you're telling you was so much fun. I really missed all those. I love that. It was it's just lovely. Really great. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, Bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
I like
Thank you, Bill.
Scott, how are you doing? You're muted, hon. Scott, you're muted.
I'm muted, yes.
There he is.
Thanks for asking. I'm going into New York City tomorrow for a second follow-up with my hematologist and oncologist. You know, it's looking good. So
Good.
I'm still having issues, but you know, it's September 16th. They didn't think I was going to live, so that's just a lot better than that. Because the doctor was wrong. People say I'm so sorry. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
It put more of a grateful in my grateful Scott. I'm really grateful now.
Yeah. We're not grateful for the time we have, right?
Yep. And my son has been sick. He was in the hospital for 11 days, very sick. He's chronically ill, and he's back home now with us. He's an adult, and he's doing a lot better. He's improving. Still has issues, a lot of issues, but thank God. Take care, Leslie.
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you. Take care, Bill. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
Karen,
you.
for running a great meeting. Thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott. My pleasure.
Have a great night, everyone.
Where's Madison, Ohio, Karen?
Hey, Don Olson, where are you?
On the lovely shores of Lake Erie.
Oh, okay.
I'm up, that's
top.
almost halfway between Erie and Cleveland, so
Okay, that's down.
opposite corner of the state from where you grew up.
What's that?
Opposite corner of the state from where you
Yeah.
grew up. Don, how you doing?
Good, thank you. And Bill, thank you. Yeah, that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk, man.
Thank you, Don.
I usually start dinner about this time, so I kind of like to not be. I don't like to see people eat on screen. So. Scott, what did you say? You're seeing an oncologist?
Well, no, he's no a hematologist really. He's head of hematology and oncology in the hospital. Not an oncologist, but he bet my blood, about the blood clots I had in my lungs and stuff. So
right, okay,
yeah.
Oh.
Yep. So got to leave like at 5:30 in the morning. Just the rush hour traffic to get into New York City is
I
not fun. The last time we went in for the last time we went in for the first follow-up visit, by accident they canceled our visit and they never called me. They said, "Well, we couldn't get in touch with you." I said, "What are you talking about? We traveled in and my wife was so upset." I said, "Sweetheart, think about it this way. You wouldn't have been upset if I died. We wouldn't have had to come in here. So I'm alive. So you'd be upset. Now we're going to go get a little breakfast. We'll go home and come back tomorrow. So if I was dead, you wouldn't have to come in, right?" She goes, "All right. Yeah. Stop with the AA shit. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right. You're right."
It's the way it is.
She hates when I'm right.
Oh, well.
All about your attitude. I said, come on. It sucks. Yeah, but we're together. We have time in the car and I get to spend time with you, which I don't see that much. And we can talk and have a nice ride and have a nice breakfast in the car traveling. And
the old silver lining. Yeah.
Yep. But I did call the office this morning. I looked on my portal and I called the office. Says, "Are you sure that I have an appointment tomorrow morning?"
How long a trip is it?
First time is cool. The second time, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. How long of a trip is
it? 45 minutes without traffic, an hour maybe, 2.5 hours in the morning. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
My neighbor they used to do that going into Atlanta. He'd get up at 5 in the morning just so he could get in there. But I guess he was salaried. He could work whatever 8-hour shift he wanted to, as long as he got his work done.
I'm just grateful my business is 2 miles away from my house.
I hate driving down there.
I don't miss that commute. Cleveland's not much better, but I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, the terrible thing about down here in Georgia is you about every intersection they change the damn name of the road. They do. I swear to God, and nothing's straight. The roads were north, south, east way, but I'm telling you what, I still can't. I still can't get my directions straight out here. It's just you're going up a road and it curves around and goes back the other direction. And
well, it seems like half of them are called Peachtree Street too, aren't they?
Huh.
Oh yeah, so yeah. I don't know how many. Yeah, Peachtree Road, Peachtree Street, Peachtree. Yeah, there's.
Well, it's been a while down there. My friend from Atlanta moved to Tampa, so I haven't been down to Atlanta in a while.
I hate going down there. My girlfriend lives kind of in the north suburbs, and I even hate that. It all depends on rush hour, because if it's rush hour, forget it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Take care.
That's a nice
Have a
background.
blessed night.
Good night.
That's the Three Sisters in Oregon. I was out there hiking, I think in 2019, I took that picture.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Get all the way up there?
What's that?
Get all the way up to the top of that?
No, I didn't actually, I didn't hike up those. I forget where I was at, where I took that picture. I think that was, oh, it's called Broken Top, but it's a volcano where the whole top is blown off. So it's like a
Oh.
big old hole. And it was funny because I wasn't going to hike up there because it looked too far. And some woman came and started talking to me, and she's like going really fast, and she was kicking my butt so bad I was like trying to pretend she's like, "Sir, are you okay?" It was funny. She's telling me her whole life story like somebody in AA would, real personal stuff. I'm just like, what's happening here? And then she's like,
Oh
I
my
was on
God.
a reality show. And when we get up there, I mean, I wouldn't have went up there if I wasn't like just trying to not have her, put me to shame. And then she's like, well, I said, what reality show are you in? She goes, did you ever see American Gladiators? She was on American Gladiators and won the whole damn thing.
Oh my gosh.
So I looked her up online and stuff.
Oh man, good thing you didn't.
Like, no wonder you almost killed
Good
me.
thing you didn't. Yeah, good thing you didn't throw the gloves down.
Yeah. but yeah, the view up there was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
I got.
Where is it again? Utah? You said no.
That's Oregon.
Oregon.
The Sisters Wilderness. The three mountains are called the Three Sisters.
Hello? Yeah. Are you okay?
Anyway, I'll see y'all later. Take care.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. All right, guys. Love you. Take care.
Love you guys.
Good night. Yeah, I love you too. See you later. Karen, you did a great job. Thank you, sweetie.
Thanks, Don.